大家好，我是 Olive Branch Down. So have you ever heard of this popular saying, 这种食物越吃越瘦? Well, is there really such a food that the more you eat, the thinner you get? Well, let's try to get into the details and find out. It probably goes without saying that this saying is probably not meant to be taken literally, as it doesn't make any logical sense. But are there any foods that can actually help you to lose fat when you eat it? Let's find out. The first point is that it does violate the first law of thermodynamics, meaning you can't just eat something into infinity and expect to go as thin as nothing, even though a calorie is no longer a calorie, meaning that it cannot make you fat or skinny based on the number of calories you eat. Second point is that it does contradict the science of fasting, which is all about reducing insulin to zero. And so if you're eating foods, any type of food does raise your insulin to a certain degree. It might not be as high as certain refined carbohydrates, but even protein and fats does spike your insulin a little bit. Now, there are a very, very small percentage of foods that actually doesn't spike your insulin, but they are also not healthy for you to eat in abundance. For example, fructose is not going to raise your insulin, but it is very, very harmful for your body. So what they're actually implying with the saying is that the more you eat of a certain substance, the more satiated you'll be, meaning the more full you might feel and the less you will eat afterwards. So the key is in the last part of the sentence. You will want to eat less, which kind of contradicts the saying itself, which is the more you eat, the thinner you get. So I think there's a bit of a play on words. There's a bit of a marketing ploy to make a food substance more marketable. But the key point is that you want to eat less, not more of something. For example, there are certain fibrous foods like beans, lentils, vegetables like celery that actually contains a lot of soluble and insoluble fiber that actually stretches your stomach, and there are pressure sensors in your stomach lining that tells your brain that you have food, stop eating. There are also hormones like leptin, where the food substance that passes into your gut gets released into the brain that tells your brain that you have food, you have energy, stop eating. The theme again is to stop eating. Versus other food items like sugar, where it actually tells your brain that you want to eat more, consume more food. When insulin spikes when you eat sugar, it actually blocks the leptin signal, and your brain doesn't receive the signal that you have food, stop eating. So instead, you continue to eat, and you end up eating more, which is why eating sugar leads to fat gain. So there are, of course, some brands and food items like 70% dark chocolate, or protein bars that have lots of good protein for you. Other food items such as meal replacements or snacks that claim to have low sugar, low fat, or even just fruit in general, where you might know friends and family that just eat them like non-stop because they think that's going to make them skinnier because it's healthier. I would say is not true. You don't want to go down that path where you can just keep eating it and expect to get thinner, because fruits still contain a lot of sugar, a lot of fructose, which makes you fat. Even though it does contain the fiber, it doesn't block it all out. And these meal replacements often have other ingredients that are not so good for you. And these ingredients are often going to be packaging these items so that they are shelf ready, shelf steady for a long period of time, and that's not good for you, like preservatives. So same applies for caffeine. It helps you to lose fat, but you can't be drinking 100 cups of coffee a day. That is just not going to be good for you. So just understand that you can't take this saying at face value. So just because a food item says that it's low sugar usually means that it has high in fat, like ketogenic snacking foods. And the fat will spike your insulin. It is very high in calories as well. So your body will consider that when it's deciding whether to gain fat or burn fat. If it's low sugar, then it's probably high fat. And if the product says it's low in fat, then it's probably high in sugar. So in conclusion, guys, the saying 越吃越瘦 really doesn't really make sense from a physical or biochemical point of view. Rather, that the type of food you eat really will make you feel more full or less full. And it might trigger your insulin levels or your hormonal levels to the point where you will retain energy and retain fat or build more fat. And so that's why you really should look deeper into the nutritional labels of each of the food types you're eating. That's it, guys. I hope you found that useful. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you next time.